लाइव है। Welcome to Therapeutic Thursday, where we dive into the transformative power of therapeutic approaches for individuals on the autism spectrum. Today, we are honored to introduce AJ Cullen, a compassionate advocate and founder of Autism Barks. AJ's journey is driven by her personal connection to autism, as she has a family member on the spectrum. Since 2006, AJ has been actively involved in the field of autism, seeking innovative ways to support individuals on the spectrum. As a licensed clinical social worker and certified animal assisted intervention specialist, AJ has pioneered the integration of animal assisted interventions (AAI) into her practice. Today, AJ will lead us on an exploration of cultivating connections, exploring animal assisted interventions across cultures. Join us as we embark on this enlightening journey with AJ and discover the power of animal assisted interventions in fostering connections and enhancing the lives of individuals on the autism spectrum. So, thank you so much, AJ, for joining us today and handing over the session to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and be partnering with Autism Connect again. I have prepared a slideshow for us today, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to go through some information, and then at one point I will be stopping the screen share briefly to pull up a video for you. So just bear with me as we're switching screens, but we will dive in. All right. So today we are going to look at not only animal-assisted intervention and how it relates to autism, but we're also going to look at how it is viewed in different cultures. So some of you who are joining may have seen me speak at ICANN Dubai or ICANN Tanzania, and having those experiences allowed me to get a better understanding that while animal-assisted intervention is very widely accepted here in the United States, it's not as common or viewed in the same ways throughout other parts of the world. So we'll be able to talk about that a little bit today as well. As we go through today's presentation, I'd like to start by making a brief note about the language that you'll hear me use. Throughout the presentation, I will likely alternate between the term autistic, using identity first language, as well as person with autism or person first language. And I will also alternate between the terms animal assisted intervention and animal assisted services, in an effort to respect everyone's language preferences. Today, we're going to look at how working with individuals with autism may help folks in different countries. We're also going to explore why understanding the cultural differences is important to being able to provide effective therapy. And we're also going to hear some success stories of incorporating animal-assisted intervention within the autism community. So you may be wondering, what is animal-assisted intervention or animal-assisted services? So you'll see throughout the PowerPoint that I'm going to use the abbreviations or acronyms a lot. AAI is the acronym for Animal-Assisted Intervention, and this term is synonymous with animal-assisted services. However, there's debate in the community as to which is the most appropriate term to use, which is why we'll alternate and use both. You may be asking yourself, well, what does animal-assisted intervention or animal-assisted services actually entail? Within the confines of animal-assisted intervention, there are four main genres that are considered AAI. The first being animal-related engagement. And animal-related engagement involves activities that include animals, but may not have specific goals. And they also may not include the animal in person. So this may look like doing a animal coloring activity or having a virtual visit with a therapy animal because you don't have access to a physical therapy animal for whatever reason. We also look at animal-assisted education, and within animal-assisted education, this is going to be a more formalized process where a therapy animal handler is working with a teacher or an educator on specific education-related goals. So we most often see this in the school setting. We have animal-assisted activities, which are our most casual kind of intervention process. And with animal-assisted activities, unlike animal-assisted education, there's no specific goal or outcome that we're looking to achieve or measure. It's simply being in the presence of a specifically trained animal. And then lastly, we have animal-assisted therapy, which is mainly what you'll hear me refer to throughout the majority of today's presentation. And within animal-assisted therapy, this is where you have a therapy animal and their handler, and or you yourself as the therapeutic professional, incorporating an animal into a variety of different therapeutic settings. And this may include one-to-one talk therapy or small group therapy, and it can also be seen in physical therapy, occupational therapy, etc. So why does animal-assisted intervention work? Why do we want to think about incorporating it into the autistic community? You'll see here on the slide a picture of myself and my dog Lola. And the journey to how I started Autism Barks really began with my love for dogs. I've never not had a dog. I've mainly grown up with Labrador Retrievers, as you can see here with Lola, and they have had a truly profound impact on my own life. And in dealing with some of my own struggles and challenges growing up, I really found a lot of comfort, companionship, and just non-judgmental acceptance from the dogs in my life. And because of that, I've always wanted to look for ways that I could incorporate my passion and love for dogs into supporting the autistic community. So that leads us into the kind of science behind animal-assisted intervention and why it works. And that can be summarized by relating to the human-animal bond. So the human-animal bond is a process that we see positively affected when integrating a therapy animal into a variety of settings. We find that the processes affected by the human-animal bond include social, psychological, biological, and neurological. And the basic premise supporting that human-animal bond is similar to the story I just told about my love and affinity for dogs. So it stands on the premise that dogs, among other animals, offer vital support and a sense of love to individuals, and that love for animals is described as natural and instinctual. And it's defined by the American Veterinary Medical Association as a beneficial relationship influenced by essential behaviors for the health of both humans and animals, encompassing all of those things that we see there on the slide. So emotional, psychological, and physical interactions. One of the things that I like to point out here that you heard in the definition is that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So not only is it beneficial to the human, but it's also beneficial to the animal that's involved in the intervention as well. So you can see here some different examples of individuals with a variety of different therapy animals. The picture that you see the largest is from when I was working in a special education classroom for students with emotional and behavioral diagnoses as well as autism. And the dog that's being held in the air there is my late dog, Ella, who was my therapy partner for about 9 years and was the dog I first was able to incorporate into animal-assisted interventions and working with students with autism. So if we're going to take the time and energy to incorporate animal-assisted services into care and treatment for autistic individuals, we want to know why we're doing it and what we are looking to get out of it, and what effects are we going to see on the individual that's involved in that service or intervention. So we start by talking about the physiological effects of animal-assisted intervention in autism. And what do those look like? So these are going to include things such as decreased heart rate, decreased blood pressure, and a decrease in anxiety, as you see here on the screen, excuse me. And it's important to understand that it was also noted that with these reductions, we were finding this during the intervention as well as after the intervention. So if you have a kiddo who's on the spectrum that maybe is really struggling with anxiety, having that interaction with an animal was not only beneficial in the moment, but even after the interaction as well. And then we also found in recent research that among hospitalized children, their blood pressure decreased after the interaction with a friendly therapy animal, which is something great to consider, especially when we think of how challenging being in a hospital setting might be for an autistic individual. And we also found that when working with animals and being involved in animal-assisted intervention, the child or client's attention is directed away from what might be causing them anxiety, and it's refocused on the animal. There are also a variety of different social and emotional benefits of animal-assisted interventions seen within the autism community. And these are really the biggest kind of takeaways that I hope you can take from today. And it's what the majority of the evidence-based research right now is supporting, and where we're seeing the biggest benefit of incorporating animals into care for the autistic community. So when we think of emotional connection, I imagine many of you who are joining today have some sort of connection to autism, whether it be personally or professionally, and likely can relate to the fact that at times, maybe someone that you're working with or your loved one struggles with emotional connection. Within the context of animal-assisted intervention, what we're finding is that animals, particularly dogs and horses, can really help individuals on the autism spectrum begin to form emotional bonds, which can be challenging for them at times. And having the non-judgmental and accepting personality of an animal can be a really good way for them to start to learn and practice building those emotional bonds and developing them. Another area where we've seen great improvement in children, especially on the autism spectrum, when working with animal-assisted intervention, is within communication. We're finding that many individuals with autism may find it easier to communicate with animals as opposed to people. And that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be as simple as not needing to make eye contact with the animal, or not having to worry about what you sound like or what you're talking about. And we're also finding in studies that individuals are expressing some of their first verbal communication in the presence of an animal, which I think is really cool. Lastly, enhance social skills. This is another area where the research supports incorporating animal-assisted services into autism. And within this domain, the great example that I like to give, and if you've seen me speak before, you've probably heard me use it, is that if you're walking down the street with a dog, it's much more likely that someone is going to approach you and maybe ask you what the dog's name is, or can they pet the dog? Or my famous example that I can tell you all of my neighbors' dogs' names, the likelihood I know the neighbors' names are very slim. And what we're finding within the context of autism is that this is helping children and even adults on the spectrum, especially, be more comfortable in making connections with strangers. And research is also finding that it's also bringing down the anxiety level of other children who may or may not know how to approach a classmate or a teammate that's on the autism spectrum, and having that animal there as a neutral buffer has been really helpful in being able to foster some of those social skills and social exchanges. We've also found that there are additional benefits, including an increase in motivation, with the presence of animals motivating individuals to engage in activities or therapies that they may otherwise resist. I worked at a day program for adults on the autism spectrum, and exercise was not their favorite activity. But during the nice summer months here in the United States, I didn't want to keep our group inside all day. So a few days a week when my late dog Ella would come to work with me, I found that they were much more willing and eager to go for a walk or go to the local park if we were bringing Ella or taking Ella for a walk. We're also finding that it's helping with enhanced focus and attention. Interactions with animals can improve concentration and attention span, which can aid in learning and also in engagement in therapy sessions. And I've seen this firsthand in my work as a therapist. Having the dog present certainly keeps individuals much more focused on what's going on in that session, as opposed to maybe what's going on around them. And this can be really beneficial because depending on where one might be receiving therapy, I used to provide therapy in a hospital setting where there were multiple individuals sharing a room. It was very noisy. So having Ella there to be able to focus the patient's attention allowed them to engage in that one-to-one therapy action much more intently. And then we're also finding that caring for animals or bonding with animals is helping individuals with autism boost their self-esteem. Now that we have an understanding of why we might want to incorporate animal-assisted interventions, we're going to look at how it is perceived and viewed in different cultures and what this means for our ability to stretch access to animal-assisted interventions worldwide. As I'm based in the United States, we'll start by talking about North America. So within North America, we are finding that animal-assisted intervention is widely used. Within the United States in particular, we have three classifications for working animals, one being service dogs, the second being therapy dogs, and the third being emotional support animals. A therapy animal is an animal that is specifically trained to provide comfort, support, companionship, and emotional support to people and clients in various settings. So this may be in a hospital, in a school, in a one-to-one therapy session, disaster response. But these animals are working with a therapy animal handler. So it's not going to be the client's own pet or own animal. An emotional support animal is an animal that can provide emotional support to someone with a variety of different psychiatric diagnoses, including autism. They do not require any special training or certification. They, in the United States, are prescribed by a medical provider or a psychiatric provider. And this is going to be an animal that is the person's pet, that does live with them, is with them all the time. And then we also have service animals here in the United States. And in my research, I learned that they seem to be the most widespread throughout cultures. So we'll get to talk about them a bit more as we explore other areas. And service animals in the United States, particularly, are dogs that are specifically task trained to help mitigate the symptoms or impairments of one's disability. So these dogs undergo 18 to 36 months of really rigorous training and a stringent matching process between the service dog agency and the receiving client or family, so that the skills and the tasks that the dog is learning is quite specific to that individual. So what might that look like in autism? We may be training the dog to provide deep pressure to the individual when the dog notices that they are demonstrating symptoms of increased anxiety. So they may notice that someone is tapping their foot over and over again, and that's a sign for that particular person that their anxiety is ramping up. So the dog is trained to lay over the individual's lap or maybe come over and nudge the individual in an effort to bring them back to the present moment and help redirect their attention. There are also service dog agencies worldwide that train service dogs in search and rescue for individuals with autism that demonstrate wandering or elopement behaviors. So the dog is specifically task trained to be able to identify the child's scent in an effort to relocate them with their family in the event that they do elope. And we also have seen that some service dog agencies are training service dogs to be tether animals for individuals with autism. And in this circumstance, the individual would wear a belt around their waist that is attached to the dog. And the dog would also have a leash that's attached to the parent or handler. And if the child were to bolt or attempt to run off, the dog is trained to lay down and bear its body weight so that the child is unable to run from the situation and put themselves in danger. I talked a little bit about some examples of different things that each of these dogs might do. So now is the point where I'm going to stop my screen share and reshare with a short video so you can see an example of what a visiting therapy dog program looks like at an autism center here in the United States.
Whether it's a warm hug or a slobbery kiss, when Eliza the therapy dog joins the party, it's joyful chaos. Yeah, that's green too. Everyone wants to say hello to their four-legged best friend. As for me, well, I'm kind of just in the way. Welcome to the party. And honestly, who can blame these 4- and 5-year-olds? Eliza's patience, honorable, as she reports for duty at Hope Ridge Autism Therapy Center in Georgia, just one of many clinics designed to help children nationwide with autism, often in underserved communities. Eliza's job is to assist the kids with activities that teach them life skills, like counting. How many toes does Eliza have? She's got 5 toes on her paw.
All of it working towards school readiness. We want these kids to be independent.
Donna Bryan is Eliza's owner and a former therapist at the clinic when she left to pursue her master's in social work.
A lot of these kids are really struggling with communicating their needs. Well, Eliza doesn't need to communicate. You don't have to explain anything to her. She is just right there. She's going to meet you wherever you are. If you show Eliza your tongue. Yeah.
Are you seeing them become more verbal even without having to communicate with Eliza?
Absolutely, absolutely. We might not necessarily understand exactly what it is that they're saying, but you know what, she does. And she's gonna respond in only a way she can.
One of those children is 4-year-old Annika Gonzalez. In less than a year, she hit a communication milestone.
When she was diagnosed with autism, she was considered nonverbal. To be honest, when she was diagnosed, I never thought I would hear her say mom or I love you.
Now, Annika can form complete sentences. Her mother, Kimberly, says thanks, in part, to Eliza's helping paw.
When she's with Eliza, she feels a sense of security. She feels happiness and joy. Yeah. I love you. I see.
That kind of progress is something worth celebrating. So in honor of Eliza, anyone want to go to a party? So, Chewy threw you a holiday party. Look at all these presents. Monica, what is this? What is this? Eliza, can I have your help with this, please? And there was one more surprise left in store for our guest of honor. Chewy likes to celebrate deserving animals like Eliza. This year, they would like to donate $20,000 to Blue Path Service Dogs so that there can be so many more Elizas out there.
Wow. Oh my goodness, you guys have no idea the impact this is gonna make on so many families.
Here's more Elizas. And guys, a bit of background on Eliza. Donna told us originally she was trained to be a guide dog, however, had a food allergy. So Eliza had a career.
So I'm just going to pull the PowerPoint back up for us. So you could see there in that video that the incorporation of a therapy animal at that particular autism center really brought a lot of joy and enjoyment to the children that were in the center. And we got to also hear about how some individuals were even able to make gains in language. So I also began to look at what animal-assisted intervention looks like in other cultures. And being cognizant of the time that we have remaining, I'm going to give a brief overview of what we're seeing in other countries, and I'm more than happy to share the slide deck with more information or answer any questions if we want to go into further detail. But within the context of Asia, what we found in research is that there are a variety of different positive associations related to animals, as well as increased adoption of animal-assisted intervention practices within Asia. However, there are also cultural considerations that we need to be aware of, such as the challenges of stigma in some of the traditional practices surrounding animals within different parts of Asia. So for example, if you think of China and the dog meat trade, there are going to be people that have different views on the purpose of particular animals and what and how they should be incorporated into our day-to-day lives. And as practitioners, it's important for us to have an understanding of what some of these beliefs may be, so that we know how to provide education and support to advocate for incorporating animal-assisted intervention. Within Asia, there are a variety of different programs that have evolved to provide animal-assisted intervention to individuals within a variety of Asian countries, and also to provide education as to why we may want to break some of those traditional cultural values or stigmas surrounding animals. So within Asia, there's a program called Dr. Dog, and Dr. Dog is an over 30-year-old program that has expanded to the Philippines, India, Malaysia, and Japan. And Dr. Dog visits a variety of different settings to provide individuals with the companionship of an animal and also to provide education on the importance of animal welfare and caring for animals and making sure their needs are met adequately. There's also a program called Professor Paws, which teaches children the value of kindness and companionship for all living things and helps them overcome their fear of dogs, learn safety around dogs, as well as responsible pet care, compassion for all animals, etc. And then you can see here on the slide that there are a variety of different therapy animal programs located in India and some service dog programs that we're seeing in Japan. When I had the opportunity to speak in Africa at ICANN Tanzania a few months back, I failed to incorporate some of these cultural perceptions into my PowerPoint, which is what prompted me to use it as a talking topic for today. And I found that a lot of the traditional cultural views or experiences that individuals were expressing to me within Tanzania was very different than what we experience here in the United States. So things such as taboos and the challenges around having the means to care for animals in addition to caring for themselves. What do animals look like within the context of their traditional roles within that culture? All of these things were impacting one's ability to understand why we may incorporate AAI into autism care, as well as how can we provide education as to why it's important. Even with some of the trepidation that I heard and was able to talk through with folks, we are seeing some therapy animal programs emerge within Africa. The majority that I was able to find were located in South Africa. So you can see a few referenced here on the screen: Therapy Top Dogs, Paws for People. There's a new program in Uganda that is providing therapy animals to support individuals affected by trauma. Within Australia, we're finding that animals are more falling under kind of the view that we have here in the United States with being more broadly accepted, and they have some established regulations and standards to ensure adequate care for any animal or individual that is engaging in animal-assisted therapy. Within Australia, there are a few different programs that are specifically designed for autistic individuals that you see referenced here, one of which is a service dog program, and another is PAWS, which stands for Parents Autism Workshops and Support, and they specifically work with parents to provide education and resources on the importance of incorporating a dog into the family, what benefits it may have on their autistic child, etc. I'm going to go through our next slides fairly quickly because I see that we're at time and I want to allow time for questions. With Europe, a lot of the same pieces that I just touched on with Australia and the United States, a bit more recognized, incorporated more often. And within Europe, we're also seeing a lot of research emerge that supports the incorporation of AAI, which is wonderful. Similarly to the US and to Australia, there are a variety of different service dog agencies that are specifically training service dogs for autistic individuals, as well as a variety of therapy animal programs that are working with children and adults on the autism spectrum. And lastly, in South America, we're seeing that there are some similar views to Europe, Australia, the United States, but there are also some similar views to Africa and Asia as well, with some of those challenges and opportunities and cultural sensitivity pieces that we need to be aware of based on their specific cultural experiences and views. They do have a handful of programs that are emerging in South America, however, that you can see listed here, a variety of hospital visiting programs, educational programs, and even a volunteer dog and horse therapy program for children and adults on the autism spectrum. So in conclusion, we now know that different cultures hold different views surrounding animals, and that's going to incorporate an individual's access to animal-assisted intervention as well as the understanding of animal-assisted intervention as a whole. We understand that there are diverse cultural attitudes that exist towards AAI and AAS, and that it's very important for us as practitioners or parents advocating for incorporating animal-assisted therapy into your loved one's care, that we're looking at the cultural competence piece and understanding that as a part of it. And it's great to hear that there are more and more programs emerging throughout the world, and hoping that many of those programs will dismantle some of the stigmas and cultural taboos that are related to animals. So I know we'll have a few moments for questions today, but if we don't have an opportunity to answer your question, please feel free to scan this QR code. It will take you to my link tree, which will have a link to my website, to all of my social media handles, and I am more than happy to answer any questions or prepare a further and more detailed organization for you or your organization as well. So I see that we have a few questions that have popped up in the chat. One being, what are some of the potential benefits for individuals with autism, both in terms of social and emotional development, as well as communication skills? So I do believe we touched on that a little bit in the presentation, but the major takeaways are that the animals can serve as a buffer for the autistic individual within social interactions. So they may be more comfortable responding to a new friend if that new friend has come up and said, "Oh, hi, what's your dog's name? Can I pet your dog?" And we also saw in the short video that we watched that being in the presence of animals at times can be attributed to helping autistic individuals gain further verbalization and/or communication skills. I see, what research evidence exists regarding the effectiveness of AAI in supporting individuals with autism? That's a great question. There is a ton, well, I shouldn't say a ton, that's an overstatement. There is a good deal of research out there right now that does support the incorporation of AAI into autism treatment. There is an organization here in the United States called the Human Animal Bond Research Institute, and they have published several studies about the efficacy of AAI within autism. They recently published a study relating to service dogs in autism and how there are positive effects not only on the autistic individual, but on the family unit as a whole. They also recently published a study on having guinea pigs in the classroom for students with autism and the positive effects that they were seeing there. However, one of the things that you'll find in any AAI research is that we need more. So it is very important that we continue to grow the body of research that supports the efficacy of AAI. And I'm very excited because I will have the opportunity to do that here in a little bit. I'll be pursuing a PhD in social work, and my dissertation and research will focus on AAI and autism. So I'm hopeful if you ask me that question in 4 years when I finish, I will have some more research to be able to provide you with. And I don't see any other questions in the chat, but I'm happy to hang on for a moment if anything else pops up. But if not, certainly please feel free to reach out to me on any of my social media handles. I could talk about dogs and autism all day. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions or schedule any further presentations for you or your organization.
It was a wonderful session, AJ. Like
Thank you.
some amazing content in like insights and everything. The information shared was totally amazing. So as
Thank
we
you.
conclude today's session, I hope everyone has been inspired by your profound insights and like your dedication as a compassionate advocate and founder of Autism Bark highlights the transformative power of therapeutic approaches for individuals on the autism spectrum. So thank you once again. Thank you so very much, AJ, for sharing your valuable contributions. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. And if any of the audiences has any further questions, they can just leave it in the comments box below. We will definitely reach out to AJ, and I hope every question would be answered. So thank you so much for joining
Absolutely.
us and hoping to have more collaborations in future.
Absolutely. It's an honor to collaborate with you any opportunity that I have. So thank you for having me and for the hard work that Autism Connect is doing for the autistic community, because you're really just spreading so much knowledge and advocacy worldwide. So as a family member of someone on the spectrum, thank you for that and for your work.
It is totally a pleasure. Oh, okay then. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.